Hello, friends and my dear students. Welcome to our first lesson in future studies. In fact, today's presentation is based on one article published by Professor Jim Daughter, who happens to be the one of the forefathers of future studies. So, in fact, this objective of this lesson is to make you familiarize with what this course is, how it evolved in 1960s and 70s, especially how it became an established academic discipline and also a policy making tool. Come, let us see what this the course is all about and how it is a useful tool for individuals, corporates, nation states, planners, and also people from different walks of life. Oh, this lesson will broadly speaks about who are these futurists, what kind of job they do, what is the nature of work the future studies experts do, and how it works actually, how this the course is going to help people at large. So, coming to the first question, who are futurists and what they do? I think before going into this question, we should also know all the human beings are futurists by nature. So, if you go back to the onset of civilization, we see that people were always future oriented. They were, used to dream, plan ahead, and strive for attaining the dreams. In fact, most of us we are now, believe in. All insurance policies. Otherwise, insurance companies would have been redundant if we were not happen to be the futurists. Therefore, this is the testimony that all of us are future centric or future concerned. So, futurists are useful. So, especially futurists means we mean the professional futurists who have been acquired certain skills in this discipline are useful in helping us think about the causes and consequences of our dreams and actions. So that is how futurists will work out with their own methods, insights, and other related skills they are familiar with. No one can predict exactly what the future is. This is the limitation of this future studies. But however, the responsible futurists do not predict the future, but forecast alternative futures. What are the other possible things that might happen in the coming years? To that extent, the futurists would be very, very useful to all of us. They help individuals, governments, and corporates to envision towards their preferred futures, the best possible future. So, that given the alternatives, one can make a choice what kind of future an individual or a corporate company or a nation state would like to acquire in the coming years. So to that extent, future studies will certainly of great help to all of us. So this is just a slide how we evolved over a period of time from ape to today. We talk about robotics and artificial intelligence. Most of the work taken over by computers, artificial intelligence, robots, and other kinds of inventions and technology. Futurists and contemporary future studies. So, if you come to this theme, future studies is of a recent origin in the evolution of human society as a discipline we are talking about. Humans have some kind of influence and control over the idea of the future. This we should not forget. This is how we are far ahead of other species because we are future thinkers. We act today keeping certain future consequences in mind and have the obligation for the future generations. Future generations means it will also include our own children and grandchildren and also the younger generations in general. So in the history, men kept on searching for new horizons endlessly and ceaselessly over the previous 2 to 3 centuries. So 2 to 3 centuries in the sense we mean the post-enlightenment period, that is the European Enlightenment and later. We were the pace of our advancement of our civilization became very rapid and these are very landmarks in our futures thinking and future related activities. This is the landing on the moon. I think this was also one of the great achievements of those period, I think. So futurists, especially in the 60s and 70s, how this future studies became an important discipline, acquired the shape of a discipline. So for that, we have to go back to 60s and 70s, which witnessed unanticipated consequences of policies and actions of individuals and governments. So this happens to be not only the nation states, also many kingdoms, and even to this day, certain unanticipated consequences, unanticipated things are happening. So 60s and 70s was a period of very uncertainties. So some of them were frightening and undesirable. So we were, in fact, frightened by some of the situations we faced in the 60s and 70s. It could be a war, it could be a famine, it could be many other kinds of events that took place in 60s and 70s. We were not expecting those things to happen. Those were undesirable and unwanted things that happened. So most prominently, these things we all know today. The economic crisis is one of such a frightening thing, and the ecological crisis. This is also equally an important the issue which really frightened us, and we were, in fact, not desired for this kind of consequences. So, futurists looked at forthcoming technologies such as automatic robotics, artificial intelligence, synthesized life forms, nanotechnology, and so on, and their consequences on society. So, we all in a very uncertainties period, because this economic crisis and ecological crisis are still valid in today's situation. So now we are so much, influenced by this technology. I am not a robot. This is how society nowadays are facing robots, the influence of robots. So if you work in a computer environment, many times there will be a dialogue box. There will be a dialogues box where we have to put that, where we have to prove that I am not a robot. So that is the kind of the technology making advancement. Will robots change the human relationships? Certainly, yes. This is going to happen in the near future. Then coming back to the emergence of this discipline, as I was discussing with you, 60s and 70s, a body of scholarship had emerged at individual, institutional, and organizational levels, especially in Europe and American societies. Example, during this period, the World Future Studies Federation came into being. It was in France, then the World Future Society in USA. So these are all some organizations working and thinking, publishing the things related to future studies. Then the World Futures Conferences in different continents. Even now also we see, if you search in the Google, one or the other future conferences will be taking place in different parts of the globe. Preparation of a state of the futures report and its institutionalization. This is also one of the important landmarks, because about this state of the futures report, we will be discussing in the next lesson also, how it is important and how it helps us as a guidepost to prepare ourselves for the future. Then the courses on future studies as an academic program, starting from as an elective or a optional course, certificate to doctoral program in future studies. We find many universities in Europe and America offering a doctoral studies in future studies. Then in the coming to the defense and corporate sectors, usually they identify future studies as strategic studies to make their counter plans against enemy countries, and also to fight the economic battles with other neighboring countries. Then when we say this is a strategic study, So when we say future studies is a strategic study, it means that strategy involves several steps. Say, for instance, vision, mission, goal, strategy, and action. These are some of the five important steps we work out in the strategy making, in the strategy processes. So these future studies will help us in all these five steps: how to envision, how to set up our mission, goal, strategy, and action, and what are the consequences of all these steps in the coming years. Then this is also a very important thing, future studies and governmental foresight, because in 60s it was realized that governments need to establish institutions of foresight to make sustainable policies. Because as we saw in the previous slide, some of the mistakes led us to unprecedented situations and scenarios which were very threatening to the mankind. So to guide in a proper direction, we need some kind of a governmental foresight, an institutional form of foresight before making any policies. Many nations have future oriented institutions within their existing governance structure. This is a very important point we have to underline, because in many countries, we see that this foresight studies is a part of the policy making process of various governments. Some of the frontier nations in this regard are Sweden, Netherlands, New Zealand, and United Kingdom. Most future-oriented governance systems are in Singapore and Finland. In Finland, I think you will see in the later part, Finland is one of the leading countries where this future studies is a highly institutionalized, and before passing their policy documents from these future experts, they do not implement, because they want to know what are the consequences, likely consequences of their policies on society. Keeping those things in mind, getting approval from these futures experts, they will implement many of the policies taken by their parliament. As we were discussing, certainly the future studies will help us which way to go, because it will give you sufficient wisdom to choose your path. So that way, future studies will help us in many respects, not one or two ways. So coming to the methods futurists use, we have so many methods. I think if you get into this futures literature, you will see more than 300 well-established methods are being employed by various scholars and policymakers. 300 methods means if they combine and hybridize them, they will run into thousands of methods. So that way, this is a very rich, methodologically, the discipline is very rich. So the prominent the methods to underline as a foundation course, you can see this trend analysis, horizon scanning, mathematical modeling, scenario building, Delphi method, future field, causal layered analysis. Some of these things I think we will be covering in the later the certificate course, because since this is a foundation course, we would like to just convey that this is a scientific discipline. So they are like any other discipline. Here also we use the certain scientific methods, and based on that we will be in a position to build scenarios and other kinds of the requirements of this discipline. So coming to illustration, what are the steps we need in case if you want to work individually or as an organization to create a preferable future for our own. So there are various scientific steps. Just to introduce you to those steps. These are the steps. First, we should articulate the guiding concept of social change. What kind of changes are there taking place, and we have to conceptualize. Say, for instance, now the most of the changes are technologically driven. So that is the concept we would like to use in the present situation. Identify the major driving forces in the light of the concepts. So the technology is the major driving force which will take us to a different civilization in the coming years. So that is the change agent. Say, for instance, the robotics and artificial intelligence is expected to come in a very big way in the coming 5 years or 10 years. So we have to be very cautious about this kind of driving forces. So understand the history of those driving forces. So what are the historical things? Historical in the sense not necessarily going back to various centuries, very recent history, how these driving forces are affecting us. Say, for instance, the robot-driven medical, profession, surgeries. Okay, robot-led surgical operations. So, if you take into account, so what are the kinds of things that would happen? How it would be, for medical profession? What are the kinds of consequences this robot induced or robot employed surgeries would make? So similarly, the present context and conditions we have to work out. What are the present context? What is the present issue in hand? Then the summary of the images of the future. So we have to draw some logical summaries of the images of the future. For this, we can make use of the literature that is available. People, they work in different journals. We see the literature related to the change. So what kind of future we may end up with? So some such insights we will get through the available literature and also through discussing with the experts, subject experts. So that is what we call it as a Delphi study. I think we will be covering it in the later part. Then the dominant trends using futures methods. So what are the dominant trends? So we have to identify some of these dominant trends. I think once you're familiar with this subject, you will acquire all these skills. So this is not the stage where we have to explain or we have to listen to the actual procedures which are adapted to identify these dominant trends and things like that. Then the issues, dominant issues emerging, that also is an important step. Then creation of four generic alternative futures. So generally, we use four generic alternative futures, like two axis methods. Like if you use x and y axis, you will have four alternative futures. We will show you, we will demonstrate on these methods in the later lessons. Then the futures visioning brainstorming workshops. So future visioning means is not necessarily a one man's job. We can work like a group. We can have a workshop kind of a thing where people who have expertise in their own related subject, they can say something about what the future might be based on certain logical data and logical trends. They can speak something about the future situations. So creation of preferred futures, one or more. So the next step is what kind of future we would like to prefer. What is our desirable future? So that is an ideal goal we set based on all these exercises. Then we develop a strategic plan towards this preferred future. Okay, we develop a strategic plan in the sense how to reach that goal we have set. So then deployment of policies and personnel, if it is an organization or if it is a nation state, then policies will be in place. There will be personnel in charge of various responsibilities. So then the delegation of decisions by personnel. So we delegate certain responsibilities. Then the entire future research is institutionalized and made accountable. Okay, so that is how we give serious attention to this future trends and future studies. Then concurrent evaluation of the preferred futures and plans. So this concurrent evaluation is very important when we get into this kind of a challenge working for the future. So in the concurrent evaluation, we will be we will be looking into what kind of strategies we are employing, or our strategies are moving in a right direction or not, what corrections are to be incorporated, are we in a proper path or not. So all these feedbacks will help us to rectify our approaches and rectify our strategy. So based on that, we keep changing our the strategies and the work plans, and accordingly we will try to accomplish the future goal we desired. So that is how this entire future studies will help us to set the, not only to set the goal, and also to accomplish the set goal. Okay, so this is how we work in this future studies. This may not be as simple as we are talking about, since it is a futures literacy. So we have to understand there are certain the exercises we have to carry out, and there are certain the skills to be acquired. So based on that, we can make certain desirable future to happen. Okay, thank you so much. So this is what we feel should be sufficient as a first lesson, because we don't want to confuse you, or we don't want to load you with jargons, because it is a futures literacy. It's a foundation course. So therefore, we would like to make this the content as simple as possible. In fact, we have supplied the PPT slides, and also the document, PDF document. So you can go through the PDF document, and if you have any difficulty, you can get back to us. Thank you.